I started, and then like after that first day, I'm like, I love this. And I did a couple months and I'm like, I absolutely love this. I was just so passionate about learning. As I cooked and baked a lot, but when I look back, I mean, I didn't know that much before chef school. I was just so happy to be in there 10, 11 hours a day. That I think the older chefs could see, and they were showing me more and more because I was like just soaking up any little ounce of information I could.
Welcome to Voices of Leadership, my podcast that tells the stories of women who are redefining success and thriving on the edge of change. Dana Shortt didn't set out to build a local institution. She was simply doing what she loved, cooking, creating, and connecting. Today, Dana shares her remarkable journey from her humble beginnings in catering, literally lugging IKEA bags on the subway, to the strategic and often emotional process of successfully exiting the business. We're not just talking about how to build something. We're exploring what it means to let go, to exit, intentionally and with grace, the very thing you poured your heart and soul into. Dana's story is a masterclass in entrepreneurship, offering invaluable lessons on how to build a business, grow a business, be a community staple, and the complexities of ownership transition and crafting an effective exit strategy. Beyond the business, Dana will share her insights on the power of mentorship, the importance of knowing your worth, and why asking for what you want is absolutely crucial. Plus, we'll get a glimpse into her exciting new creative pursuits and aspirations for the future. So how are you? We've been waiting to do this for so long. I'm so glad it finally worked out.
Me too, Amy. Thank you. I'm great.
Good. I mean, I guess I can officially say the former owner of Dana Shortt, right?
Yeah, you can totally say that. It feels strange.
How weird is that?
It is a little weird, right? Because it's my name and it's what I've done my whole life. But it's good because the new owners are awesome and the staff love them and the store looks fabulous and they're great with customers. So, but it is like I went to get my hair done at Control, which is in the same plaza.
Yeah.
And that was the weirdest moment I've had so far since selling, was when I went, parked my truck, which I normally wouldn't park it even in, right? I'm very particular about the parking spots because they are for the clientele, but which I was, right, at the hair salon. So I was walking towards the hair salon and I see the sign, see my name. I actually saw my son because he works there. I was like, John, but he couldn't hear me. So I'm like, well, went in to get my hair done and didn't go into the store. And that's got to be the first time for sure in over 20 years where I was in that parking lot and I didn't go in. That was kind of surreal. That made it feel really real. Like, oh, I'm here and I'm not parking my car and going in even for 2 minutes to check on something.
Right. Well, yeah, it must have been very strange. I can imagine. I mean, so you started Dana Shortt 20 years ago, right? Because I saw all the 20th anniversary things in KW, which anybody who lives here, it's a staple that we all love. And so just tell me a little bit about why you decided to start it and how you moved initially out of sort of catering into actual storefront, because those are two very different things, I think.
Oh, they really are. So I actually started working for myself about 25 years ago. I was in Toronto. I was at George Brown College for culinary. I'd finished at Guelph for hotel and food administration. And I started catering on the bus and subway with those big blue giant IKEA bags. So people who think it's impossible not to cater without a car, like I've done it. And
wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
I don't miss those days. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness I was like, early 20s.
Yep. You can do anything in your 20s, right?
Right? Oh my gosh, totally. So long story short, I knew I wanted to move back to Waterloo. It's where I'm from, born and raised. So moved back, and my original goal was to be a private chef. That led to people asking me, oh, would you be able to cater the shower for my niece for 20 people? And that led to bigger events. Would you be able to cater, hors d'oeuvres for 40 on the deck and, by the pool? And having absolutely no money, I said yes. So that led to catering. I rented a kitchen. So when you were a private chef, you're allowed to cook in people's homes. But when I was catering, I had to rent this kitchen on Margaret Ave, Bright Up Kitchen, if you know the Bright Up Community Center.
I didn't know there was a kitchen in there. That's funny.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, second story, very small. But I finally had my first car. So that was a little bit easier. But I'm running around to Zehrs and the grocery stores and wheeling things up on this, up the elevator. Oh my gosh, my stand mixers, all my equipment, renting that kitchen, which then ultimately led to me realizing I need to have an actual store where, supplies can be dropped off and I'm not running around and up and down elevators and that sort of thing. But people then started asking me, would you just be able to do a really delicious soup and dessert for 20 people? Or could you just do a great salad and an appetizer for 10? And that's what led to then me having the storefront, which then I could do these sorts of pre-ordered, as well as people just, they're going to come in and pick up 1 liter of soup for that, dinner with a baguette and some salad that night. So it kind of really evolved quite naturally, actually. And then when my oldest son was born, he's now 17 last week, I stopped the full service catering. So no more of the catering with the bartenders and servers. And then when my second son was born, he just turned 13, I stopped the pickup catering as well. And I was able to focus on then the retail store. And then of course, for years and years, and probably to this day, people still say, oh, Dana Shortt catered it. Because we do have so many options for appetizers and soups and entrees and brownies and you name it. And a lot of people, if they're picking up, maybe they're getting 2 large size. So that's feeding, 8 to 10. They're grabbing some oils and vinegars for salad. They're picking up, scones for brunch, whatever it may be. We're not there beside them baking the scones or serving the mimosa or whatnot. But if the food is all entirely from the store, which a lot of the customers do, then in their mind, it's catered by Dana Shortt Gourmet. So just a different way of catering, but there is a need for that too, as opposed to, of course, weddings and things. You're going to want to have that full service experience.
No, there really is a need for it to run in and get something is really good, and all the food is good. My kids love the chocolate covered pretzels. I have to say.
Who doesn't love those?
I know, they're the best, right? So along this 25-year journey, who were some of your biggest supporters and mentors?
I know. I love that question. When I was just thinking about, some things you may ask. And really my biggest mentors were my parents, Dave and Roz. They both had their own business, totally different fields, but I learned a lot through them, a lot about HR. My dad, I remember him telling me that your customers are the easy part. It's the staff that are hard. And I always had a great team. People sometimes, move on, or maybe their husband gets a job transfer, or they go back to school, or any number of things. We have this great person, and it's just, that was one of the hardest parts, was losing good people. And I certainly tried as hard as I could to keep them as long as I could, but that's life, right? So managing customers, keeping them happy and things like that. I thought it was pretty good advice. And whereas the staff, and sometimes you do get a bad apple, and I learned very quickly, if it's not something you can easily sort of work on, it's time to part ways respectfully and professionally. And because it can kind of impact the rest of the team if you've got someone in there that's not, working as hard or causing drama or whatever it may be.
It can change the culture for sure.
Exactly. So my mom and my dad, just different backgrounds, but great advice, so supportive and helpful. And I mean, early days, they'd be in there sometimes at midnight helping me skewer fruit for an event, or my dad would be in there. Maybe he'd be sweeping, and not obviously it was my business, but they, with those long nights, sometimes they'd pop by and help, and in all kinds of ways, really emotionally supportive. And then I say my Aunt Susan, who's now retired. She worked at Dana Shortt Gourmet for 9 years. She had a big background in HR. She ran Princess Margaret Hospital. So,
wow,
she was a little overqualified to help, but she was incredible. And I learned so much from her. And she was one of the reasons why in 2015, I was nervous as heck, but decided to invest a lot of money into that renovation and rebrand. And we changed all our packaging and branding, and opened up walls and opened up the ceiling tiles to the deck. And it just became more of that quality of food, that the experience inside matched the food.
It's a destination. It was a destination then after the reno, I think.
Yeah. So she was a huge part of that. And, when I was like, oh my God, I can't spend any more money, you got to spend money to make money, and all those.
Yeah.
All those
you got to start somewhere, right? Yeah. Well, it was good advice because it turned out beautifully. And I think having mentors is so important, and having mentors that are your family, that's very lucky. Not everyone has that. So I think that's nice.
I'm so lucky. Oh, and Doug Jones, my former dentist, he's retired now, but oh man, he was awesome. I was in a goal group with him like 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. He's a really big thinker and really smart man and really kind person. So early days. And then of course my accountants and my most recent accountant, through the sale process, Brian Fisher, he's been a mentor financially, because, oh my gosh, I can read a recipe and, quadruple it, but some of those equations and those accounting principles, I need someone to hold my hand through.
Yes, I think it's an expertise, and we all need some help along the way. For sure, we do. On the flip side, did anyone ever tell you that you couldn't do it, and how did you respond?
Sort of. Yeah, I was thinking about this one. So one of my dad's friends who's in actually a very similar business, but much bigger scale, really nice person, really successful guy in family business in the food space. He had like, years and years ago, I actually was renting his apartment above a Becker's store in Toronto when I was in chef school. And I told him I'm going to chef school. He's like, oh my God, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like he was quite nice about it, but I understand now what he was trying to say. And he wasn't, you know, I mean, it did kind of, what do they say, take the wind out of my sails a little bit, but he sees how hard these chefs work. He probably has 50 chefs working for him, or 30, I mean, a ton of them. And it is, in a traditional sense, it can be very a grind, right? If you're in a traditional setting where you're working 12-hour days regularly, you're there late at night, all of those things. So his advice was keep that as a hobby, right? Do something else. But I listened and then walked away and thought, no, I'm going to chef school, right? But I get it now even more. He wasn't really mean about it, and then I had people for sure, because I was so young when I started. I looked really young. I looked about 16, 17. People thought I was a teenage mom when John was born, because you have a fuller face. My freckles were more pronounced. Like I just always, people were like, well, where's Dana? I'm like, oh, I'm Dana. No, like Dana on the sign. That's me.
You're
So
Dana Jr.
right. So a few times people then, I think, sort of thought, I don't know if she's going to be able to do it. I don't know if she's going to be able to pull it off. And I had one of the first times I went to someone's house to quote for a catering event. And I look back and I'm like, I really do think my prices were always fair for the quality and the attention and the detail and, that whole price service triangle. She was quite stern with me. She was quite a bit older than me. And she said, your prices are really out of line and I don't think you're going to be successful. She was pretty harsh. I did not obviously get that catering gig. I did not lower my prices and it all worked out. But that was something that was sort of hard, but I don't begrudge it. But I think she thought she was helping, but I knew because I did my costing. So I had some people saying your prices are too high. And I'm thinking, well, I want to deliver that delicious, amazing sandwich. And it's going to be $15, not $9 for this package. And I had a lot of people eventually come back and say, you know what, I like use someone else. Was less expensive. It wasn't as good or was smaller portions. And so I'm really glad I always sort of stuck to my guns that way because I did my costing. Numbers don't lie. I knew what I had to charge and I knew I wanted to be around in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Well, good for you for pushing through all of that. It can be hard sometimes, and you're not wrong. The numbers don't lie. And also you were catering, pun intended, to a certain market, right? You weren't trying to cater for everybody. You were trying to cater for the people you were going after in your sort of segment, I guess.
Right. And I really wanted whatever we did, I wanted it to be, yes, they maybe spent a little more because of the quality and the amount of meat in a dish or, the service involved, customization, but I wanted it to be like the most delicious brownie they tried. I wanted people to say, where is it? Who catered this? And yes, it might be a little more because it has to be a little more so that everybody here can win, right?
Yes.
This was in a charity. That worked, I think, for me. Now, it's not for everybody, but for people who value the quality and are willing to spend a little bit more, they understand it. Especially when you try it. You're not like, oh, it's not just a price tag for nothing. It's you're paying a little more because you are getting that quality.
Okay, so let's come all the way to recent years, because I think I don't get to talk to a lot of people who have had an exit, a successful exit, an exit they can talk about, all of the things. And I think that talking about how someone sells and exits their business is very valuable. And there's always a lot of wisdom in everybody's story because it's a challenging process and there's 105 ways to do it. How did the conversation about exiting the business begin?
So my the benefits specialist, Dana Shortt Gourmet. So he's a really interesting guy. I love talking to him. I just love his perspective on things. He said to me, "You got to meet Simon Fallows. He's the CEO of Freedom for Founders. He does some really great business insights, kind of like the med can for your business. That's what I like to think of it as. Like, let's do a check-in. Do you want to meet with him?" Met with Simon. I liked him right away. He's passionate about life, super positive guy, and essentially it was this program we did together for 6 weeks called Discovery. And we went week by week, no homework. I was like, is there homework? I don't want homework. No homework. We met for an hour at his office and we went through a series of questions. It's a software program called Mouse, I believe, and went through a series of questions that led to results on 8 different metrics in terms of how owner dependent is your business? Is your business dependent on, several, like just a few really big customers, which mine wasn't, but some businesses that's kind of a weakness. That can be a little, scary if you lose that huge customer. Went through a number of things and spit out results in a report. And also it gave you a certified business valuation. And then depending on your scores and what your goals were, there was recommendations for what you could do to make your business worth even more, less vulnerable, all sorts of things. And when I got that report, I realized, you know what? I've taken it as far as I want to. I was saying there for a while as I can. And I'm like, no, actually, that's not true. I've taken it as far as I want to, because I had many offers to go into various locations and open second, third stores. And just for myself with my own, commitment to my family and what I loved this store. I was very passionate about the store and working hard, but I also am very passionate about being, a really great mom. And, like John just messaged me, Mom, can you get me at 3:50, not 4:00? And even when I had the store, it was, juggling, but my family, yeah. And working out. I love spin class. And I wanted to fit those things in. And I saw a lot of people when they expanded rapidly or quickly, it's just really hard, right? As we all know, to get everything done in a day.
Well, that's interesting. I like how you make the distinction between what you can do and what you want to do, because I think that's important when we get to this stage of our lives too, is what do we want to do for the next act, be it the second or third act, and what kind of work do we want to be doing? And so for you to make that distinction, I think is really important, because I think you probably could have scaled and you could have opened lots of places, but is that what you want with your life? And it wasn't what your values were right now. And I think that's important to know.
I didn't have to sell. So that was a really good thing. That was power. And that if I did take it to market, which we did, and went to brokerage, if I wasn't finding that if I didn't get the number that I wanted or that I felt the business was worth, then I wouldn't have, right? But there wasn't, Simon talks about a lot of times owners are forced to sell pretty quickly because of divorce. I think there's the 5 Ds: divorce, dispute, disease. There's several of them. And that wasn't the case. So I did feel a lot of freedom there, and that I could, obviously quietly take this to brokerage, see what might be out there. I was open to if there was an offer that people wanted me to stay on in a smaller capacity, but I did have an offer like that as well. Ultimately, I sold to Mike and Tanya, and I am helping them. I'm consulting with them, but it was something where I thought, I'm open to seeing this, and I'm kind of open to. I'm 47. I'm like, how old am I? I'm 40. I'm 47, and I'm happy to keep consulting with them. But I'm excited to try something new, in a completely different space. So it was just. I think it was the right time for me. But it wouldn't have been the end of the world either if I went to brokerage and it was, if it didn't work with the right fit with people and things like that, then that would have been fine too. And I think that was really great that there wasn't some. One of those 5 Ds where I think that can make it very difficult if someone's in a position where they don't want to and they have to.
And it's interesting that you got to, I guess, pick the buyer. So I guess you knew that in your best guess, the business would be in good hands, right?
Exactly. Which is so important because it really is my third baby. I mean,
yes, it is.
I have put so much time and years and years and years and blood, sweat, and tears. I know it's such a cliche, but it's true. Ups and downs and highs and lows and everything in between. I found early days, the highs were really high, like winning an award or whatnot. The lows were really low when three freezers break down in 2 weeks, and $1,000 or $2,000 in those years were devastating.
What was the hardest part about the sale process?
Oh my gosh. So selling a business is another job. I did not realize that. But then I thought about it, of course it is. I mean, there was hundreds of documents in the data room. There was so much information I couldn't believe, but it makes sense, right? If they want to see every single thing they can, due diligence and whatnot. Thank goodness I have the most amazing bookkeeper who's been with me since before I even had the store. Deb said to me honey, good thing I love you so much or I'd quit. So it was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of, it was all positive and whatnot. And then I guess, yes, there were, I believe there were 4 offers in total or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is great. It's just, with that, there was obviously a lot of store tours that happened, in the evenings behind the scenes. And then there were some people that I thought, oh, I think it might be them. And, things change. And like, that's, I'm sure just all part of the process, but that kind of, ups and downs a little bit. And overall it was a very positive experience, but it was a lot of work. I didn't think it would be no work, but I'd never been through it. So I didn't realize how many, sometimes there were 20, 30 emails a day, and I'm also running the business, and it was through our busiest fall and Christmas period, and good thing I can do things quickly.
Well, you have to run 2 lanes when you're doing it because you think you're selling it, but you're not sure. So you still have to run it like you're not selling it because it could fall through.
Oh, that's so true. Oh yeah. And all my ordering. Yeah, you're right. I order in January, February for Christmas.
Which totally I can't get over that. That's so weird to me, but I understand why.
Sometimes it was December ordering for the next December because your suppliers are going to give you incentives. And, but that was a good thing. You know what? Because again, there was not this pressure or this distress. I ordered everything and did everything as if I was going to continue having it for 10 years. And I wanted to do that because you're right. You don't know. And also I wanted whoever did, if I did sell, I wanted whoever was a couple, a single person, whoever, to have an amazing season. And I do my absolute best in the sense of I was ordering as if it was going to be me making those profits.
Right. And that's such a great way to leave it too. I mean, it's part of it. You have to have a good exit, and that's part of a good exit, I think, too.
Well, I think what you said, because some people, if there is that distress situation, if it's a health issue or something, they may not be able to run it like that. They might be in bed or who knows. So that was, I'm very glad for many reasons that I wasn't in that position.
And how long did it take? So from the first sort of, I guess, offers coming in, or you finishing that report, to the final handoff? Because I know you did some work and then you finally were out. And it was like 6 months ago. Maybe not that long. But anyway, how long did that entire process take?
So I met with Simon early May of 2023. That's when I did that discovery. And that was a couple of months. And then I decided I wanted to take it to brokerage and see kind of get a sense of what's out there. Because ultimately, is your business sellable or not? It's if someone's willing to buy it, right? And then the closing date was a year and a little bit later. So the closing date was August 31st. We made the decision we didn't have a big, oh my gosh, the business is sold. And because it's my name, it's been over 20 years. I was staying on. I still am helping them, consulting and, helping with the newsletter and creative aspects. So it just kind of made more sense for a whole bunch of reasons too. Tanya and Mike were in the store. They were at the anniversary event. They, made an investment into the business. If people ask who are they, here's Mike and Tanya. They're involved now in the business, but it wasn't sort of a, like sometimes if like owner retiring or, it wasn't that sort of thing.
Well, there's a hard cutoff date sometimes. And then to have a slow transition like that, I think is probably better for you and probably better for them.
Yeah. And for customers and staff, because we wanted people to know that, there's no need to panic here. It's going to be even better, right? They've made some beautiful changes to the interior of the store. They've got some great new product lines. This is kind of, DSG 2.0, like what's next, right? Growth. And there was no reason to think that the recipes weren't changing. The staff weren't changing. It was that they liked how the business was run. They really liked the staff. They liked the products, just wanting to kind of put their own spin on it over time.
So here's a question. Did they buy the recipes? Like, are they proprietary and then you can't do anything with them? How did that work?
Yes, they bought the recipes.
That's cool.
I never gave out recipes anyway, because I did give out recipes if something was off the menu, off the food truck menu, because that really is like that, it's unique to the business. But they bought the recipes. So those are now their recipes, right? I developed them, I created them, but that's fine with me, right? Because people love those recipes. They go in for the cheese torts and the scones and the shortbread and whatnot. And if I ever want to do some more recipe development in time for just my own creative, pursuits and family recipes, I'm helping my son John learn how to cook.
Aww.
I mean, cooking is infinite, right? You never stop learning. So yes, they bought the name, they bought the recipes.
And what did it feel like the day the sale was finalized? Not the day that, you knew it was done, sort of, I guess, the day you didn't have majority ownership anymore.
Well, it was a whirlwind, Amy, because the day it actually signed, it was in the middle of inventory. So I was in the basement helping and directing, and oh my gosh, there's so much to count. We do it over 4 days. And even then that's a bit of a stretch. And then I get this panicked call from my lawyer saying, "What's going on? You have to sign this." And then I'm like, "Oh my God." I kept looking, but not, I think I was down there for an hour. And so that was just a whirlwind. And then I took a couple days. I was really tired because inventory was, and again, I always wanted it to go well, but I think I logged 37 hours in 3 days, because we triple counted everything. I wanted it to be perfect. So when they took over, everything was as it should be. And as I, said it would be. So then I took a couple days, and then it was right into training and Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I really didn't even think about it. Like, I knew it had happened. And I, of course, now Tanya and Mike are in the office, and we made this announcement to the staff that they're part of, Dana Shortt, and they're, going to be excited for great things to come. But I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, I guess I had time over the year or two, but it was, again, I think I was ready. I was excited. This was a happy thing. This wasn't a distress thing. So I didn't really have any moments of, like, I definitely have never had any moments of, oh my gosh, what have I done, or anything like that. But I mean, like I said, going to get my hair done and being like, oh, I'm in the plaza and I'm not popping in to just say, hi, Ann, hi. Like, even sometimes I would just pop in to say hello if I'm dropping John off, or and I'm going to the gym or something. And so I'm sure every owner or former owner has a different story on that, but Mike and Tanya and I get along so well too. And it was all very, very positive, and no specific moment that I can share with you where it was like a aha or a.
Yeah, no, and not everyone, you're right. It's not everyone has it. And it's always so, and this is also why I wanted to talk about it, because people need to hear about positive exits, and people need to hear that it's possible, and that it doesn't always have to be a negative situation. It can be a positive if you're ready in the right situation. And on your part too, if you did your part to exit well, then you feel better as well when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I heard through some people, like the broker and different people, that sometimes when people make the decision to sell, they just check out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new owner comes on 6 months later and they can see it. This isn't done. That's not done. Well, I never got to that stage. I never got to the stage of burnout. I never got to a stage where I was like, not that I think I would have been like, oh, just get rid of this as fast as possible. But some businesses, it could be someone's not in great health, or they're quite a bit older than me. Not that I'm not 25 anymore.
Yeah, or it's their personality, and they're just like, I'm out, I'm done. You're much more thoughtful about it, and I think that's the lesson. Is if you do exit thoughtfully, whether you're selling a business, leaving a job, whatever it is, it's always beneficial to you.
Yeah, and I really, for a million reasons, want Dana Shortt Gourmet to live on for a long time. I don't often look back very often, or sort of give too much thought to how I did really create this from Bright Up Kitchen or the Subway, but we really are a part of a lot of people in the community. Like, there's special, whether it be Christmas morning scones, or every Friday night they have a, DSG entree, or some people are in there every day or two.
Teacher's gifts. That's why I always go.
Teacher's gifts. Yes. With your amazing pink purse and red purse. And I always see that in the cart.
That's right.
But yeah, so that's pretty cool. Like that, when I think about, and just certain stories I've heard over the years, like this one lady said, I don't know if you know this, which I would have no idea. Her husband has dementia. He was young too, like early 50s. And just like, because of your meals, I was able to keep him home for another couple of years.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I like that. Stories like one lady said, I lost 100 pounds because your meals are single, like they're portioned out for her. I mean, some of the food, like the mac and 3 cheese, is, I wouldn't call it diet food, but if you're having that with the salad, and if she was buying only single servings. So I love when I would hear those stories of how we impacted people in little ways, big ways, all kinds of ways that it feels good.
And so what advice would you have for entrepreneurs thinking about an exit strategy?
Okay, so it's your biggest asset for most people, not all, but most business owners, it's their biggest asset. And I would say, doesn't have to be through Simon necessarily, but take the time to just get that kind of that evaluation done. And because I think from what I've experienced, an accountant sometimes, depending on your business, may have a different valuation than a business valuator who's doing that for a living, who is a broker. You want to, of course, find the right fit. But I think sometimes it's like when you're running a small business, especially early days. It can be, oh, I'll do that next month, next year, in time. So with your biggest asset, just to have a sense of every now and then, even having a sense of not just, well, what it may be worth and what you need to do if you have a number in mind, if it is your retirement plan, knowing that number, and then knowing what you have to do to get to that number, or knowing where your weak spots may be. So if you're a food manufacturer, for instance, and let's just say you're selling to Costco and they're 80% of your sales, if Costco drops you, you're in big trouble. Well, maybe instead of 2, you want to have 4 or 5. So if 1 or 2 drops you, you're still okay. So that would be my advice, would be, even if you're not thinking of exiting, if you're, no matter what age, you're like, no, I got 10, 15 more good years in me. That's great. But it's like anything, just know some information, have a bit of a backup just in case the worst happens. If you have a sense of this, or then you can work towards that goal. Because a lot of people, I learned this through Simon when I've been helping him with different events in this fast track to freedom event we just did. He was chatting with a group of, say, 60 people. And he said a lot of people that he sees, I wouldn't have seen this, but they go in, they think, oh, my business is worth $1 million. Let's just say easy math. And they do these metrics and they look at the numbers, not just pie in the sky. They see what their sales are and what their expenses and everything else. And they go, oh, actually, we think it's worth more like 408,000 or whatever it is. And then if you don't have that knowledge, you don't want to learn that when you're thinking, oh, I want to be retired in 2 years. And it takes a while too. Depending on your business, it could take a while to sell. It may be very specialized. It may be in a rural location that not a lot of people want to live in that area. So knowledge is power.
That's very true. That's very good advice. So I want to hear what you're doing now, but first I'd like to know, I've heard you say, if you don't ask, you don't get. What does that mean to you and why is it part of your philosophy?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I say that because way back at George Brown, my chef instructor, John Higgins, amazing man, who I just saw at Costco College, Dan from Red House, or former Red House, was putting
Yes.
on an event. The Italian Trade Commissioner was there. It was really cool. So I saw him after, like, it's been at least 20 years. And I went to him years and years ago. And I said, when I was in chef school, and I said, Chef, do you think my academic advisor would let me apprentice for myself? Because normally you'd go apprentice in a restaurant. You'd be juicing lemons for 8 hours or whatnot. Nothing against that, but I knew I wanted to then start this private chef business. So I asked him, do you think they would let me apprentice for myself? He goes, well, if you don't ask, you don't get. So I went to my advisor. She had never heard of this before, but I then explained my plan. I wanted to finally lease a car. I wanted to write menus. I wanted to develop meal plans, put a business plan in place for this 10 entree service, as I called it. And she said, as long as you send me what you're doing every week and keep me up to date and what you're learning and what you're spending your time on, which I did, she said, okay. But it's kind of cool because she'd never heard that. So if you don't ask, you don't get, which was Chef Higgins. Because if he said, I don't think so, that sounds like a crazy idea. But he trusted in me. He knew that I was a responsible student and that I wouldn't just be an excuse to then sit around at home and watch Young and the Restless, like high school days,
That's
right?
right. Yes.
So it was that. And then that led to asking for discounts, asking for testimonials, right? Like when I was starting out, if someone had a good experience, I would ask everyone, would you mind writing me a testimonial? Sometimes they'd be really long, sometimes they'd be really short, but putting that on the website, I really, honestly, I really didn't. I had one job before working for myself, which was I was a receptionist in a tech company, which is hilarious because I am the least technical person to this day, but my brother worked there, and long story short, they met me and said, she's really outgoing. Do you mind if we interview her for the front desk position? So I learned so much as I went, and I just learned to say, well, maybe if I ask for better terms, maybe if I order in advance, well, can I get 5% off? So I asked for a lot within reason. And most times people want to help. I didn't hear a lot of no's, or I'd ask for, hey, we loved doing your Christmas baskets last year, big corporate orders for 100 baskets. We'd love to help you again. Would you have any interest? Absolutely. Thank you for calling. You've been on my list to get in touch with. Stuff like that.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a good philosophy to live by. It can really help with your success.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes if they can't say yes, they might say, well, here's what I recommend, or try this place. Or most people, I believe, are good and want to help and want to see you do well.
And it opens doors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, today, how are you being creative these days?
Well, yeah, I am being very creative because that's just in me and I have to be. I'm learning a lot about edible flowers.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, and gardening. I've always wanted to have time for some gardening and learning about flower. I love flowers. You can't see because it's dark in here right now, but I have flowers all over the house. I always have. I like to make my own arrangements. I'm taking a course actually, the Harvard School of Flowers. It's called Florette. They're based out of Washington, so
Wow.
I'm doing that just for my own pursuit. But I don't know where that'll lead because I still love food. I'm cooking all the time. My kids, oh my gosh, you have teenagers.
Yes.
I cannot believe how
All
much they
they do
eat.
is they eat. That's all.
Yeah, so a little bit of that, but I passed my travel advisor exams. I'm learning about that. I think I mentioned that to you just to I'm planning some trips and I might do some food tours and I'm kind of just taking a little break, helping with the new owners and taking a little break, but just diving into new creative pursuits. So, right, like I've got a book right beside me called Taste Buds and it's all about edible flowers in savory and sweet dishes and foraging. Oh, I did a foraging event in Stratford that was super fun. If anyone's listening who's interested, his name is Peter Blush. He does weekly tours in and around the Stratford area. It was amazing. We found wild ramps, wild
Wow,
leeks,
really?
mushrooms, viola, like little violets that I use for decorating. So doing lots of things.
That sounds so exciting. It's so nice to hear you doing things for yourself.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because I am very entrepreneurial. So I'm just I haven't I really am trying to just enjoy it for the sake of learning, but I just have this, I have that personality where
Yep.
like, what's next?
Well, that's my next question. So, what's next? And what excites you about this next chapter in your life?
Yeah, lots of things excite me. So what's next? I'm not exactly sure. I really wanted to have even more time for my kids. Like I mentioned, I always was a yes mom, for the most part. No, you cannot play video games till 2 a.m. But um, a lot of my time also in the winter was, Mom, can you drive us to Chicopee? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with other friends. And so a lot of that time was spent there. And it's always that, like I said, I'm taking, my son wants to go to Costco this afternoon and pick up a $200, he's buying it, some sort of smoothie concoction for protein shakes and stuff. So I did want to have this. He only has a year and a half left.
It's a short time. You need to spend time with almost more time with the teenagers than the toddlers, I think.
Oh, it's so true. Like they're so busier in a different way,
Hmm.
and they really need you. When they need you, they need you, right?
Right
And
away.
then sometimes they don't talk to you, and then so he always is. Both my kids are very sweet, but when they want to have those hour long discussions, I like grab it. But so my point in saying that, I guess, Amy, is that I'm not looking to go rush out into some sort of hectic, harried, fast paced career, whether it be starting something new or working for someone else. I'm exploring some options. I'm having fun. I'm creative. I'm doing some work with Simon, the broker.
Oh, good.
So
That's exciting.
yeah, he asked me it was really cool. I never thought of doing that. He asked me to join in on his team and I'm doing a little bit of that and bringing people into his network who are interested, who were like me, who were like, well, maybe I would like to learn a little more. It's nothing pushy, nothing pressury, but so I am helping with that. And then, as I said, I did this travel advisory. I booked a few trips there for some friends and the flowers. And I'm taking this course, which starts end of May. I'm doing the consulting for the new owners. Like it's a break, but I'm really like my brain is working because I'm just learning so much, so many new things and taking these courses and we'll see where it all goes.
Well, good for you. I think that's so fantastic. I mean, it's so nice to see that you've exited and you can pursue your own passions now. And I mean, I think every entrepreneur wants to get to that point. So, like, what advice would you give someone who wants to pursue their own business idea?
Oh, I would always encourage people to, if they have a dream to work on it. I would say something that someone told me a long time ago. Okay, LCBO magazine, Food and Drink magazine. It's been around for 25 years.
We all love it.
Yes, and I have my mom, my mom and dad. Like when I grew up in Colonial Acres, I remember that's when it first started. So I would look through that. Of course, I always loved baking and cooking, but this is before chef school. And then when I was in Toronto at that apartment above Becker's, I had those magazines because they were free and I was broke, right? And I'm
Mhm.
looking through and I called like Lucy Waverman, Bonnie Stern, Ted Reeder, Jennifer McClagan, who's an amazing food stylist. Like everyone called me back.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. Wow.
So Jennifer McClagan, the food stylist, said to me, I was thinking about food styling and I really do like food styling, but as a profession, she said, are you the type of person that wants to look through 4 cans of kidney beans to find that perfect bean? And I'm like,
Oh.
wow. So when she said that, it's very aesthetic, very detailed. And anyway, I think it was Ted Reeder, who's the king of the queue, like this really big barbecue guy, a Canadian barbecue chef. I believe it was him who said to me, you should go work in a professional kitchen before you commit to going to chef school, because baking brownies or cookies or whatever you're passionate about is very different on a big production scale, as opposed to, baking Christmas cookies with your mom, or, brownies on a Tuesday night for your kids' lunchbox or whatever. So I took that advice. I looked in the phone book, right? This is not long ago.
Phone book.
The yellow
Wow.
pages, and it was a catered affair called, hi there, I'm wondering if you're, hiring at all. This was in the fall, so perfect time. Come on down. They gave me an apron, like on the spot. Come in. So that was kind of a shock, but like I said, it was January, might be a bit different story, but I started. And then like after that first day, I'm like, I love this. And I did a couple months and I'm like, I absolutely love this. I was just so passionate about learning, as I cooked and baked a lot, but when I look back, I didn't know that much before chef school. I was just so happy to be in there 10, 11 hours a day. I think the older chefs could see, and they were showing me more and more, because I was like, just soaking up any little ounce of information I could. So that was really good advice, though. So my advice and all that, I'm sorry, I take sometimes a long time to answer one simple question, is just make sure that whatever your passion is it a hobby? Because maybe I would have done that and said, you know what, I don't really like this. I don't think I want to be in an environment that's hot and I'm on my feet all day, or whatever it may be. I think I want an office job. So just, I would say, before you make a big commitment into schooling or setting up a business, is there a way you can try it on a smaller scale just to see? I would say, if you're really, connect yourself right away. I had a great bookkeeper. I knew that that's going to take me 10 hours to do what she could do in an hour. So know your strengths. And if you can afford it, to get some help with the areas you're not as strong, or the areas you really don't enjoy. So you have that time and passion and energy to focus on your core product.
Well, that's great advice. I think new entrepreneurs or experienced ones can heed that advice. So thank you for sharing. And thank you for sharing all of your stories. I was so excited for this conversation because we've been talking about it for years, but you were in transition, which I knew, for a couple of years. So we had to kind of wait until you came out the other side. And I'm so happy you did. And I love that you had a beautiful exit and that you're on to a new chapter in your life. So congratulations.
Thank you, Amy. It's been so fun talking to you.
Voices of Leadership is part of the Bespoke Productions Hub network of independent podcasters. If you are interested in partnering with us as a sponsor, or if you have a podcast of your own, please visit bespokeproductionshub.com for more information. This episode is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Amy Schluter.